When we learn a new language, we all do this thing. We try to sound native. We copy accents, we replace sentences in our heads, and beat ourselves up every time we mispronounce something. We think if we sound perfect, we'll finally be fluent. But here's what really happens. You start worrying more about how you sound than about what you're saying. And before you know it, you spend more time editing yourself than actually speaking. And it's exactly the reason so many of us stay silent when trying to speak a new language. It's not that you are not capable to speak it out loud. It's because you believe you are not capable. Today I want to unpack why professionalism holds so many of us back in language learning and what to do instead. We'll talk about how to actually build confidence and why the moment you stop trying to sound perfect is actually the moment you start speaking for real. I'll also share the book I recently read that completely changed how I think about learning. If you're new here, I'm Rachelle, Mais, Rachelle and Francais. As a polyglot who speaks 6 languages, I totally understand the emotional side of learning languages. The fear, the frustration, the bottleneck between beginner and intermediate learner, as well as intermediate learner and fluency. And that quiet pressure to feel incapable, to feel like you never sound like a native speaker. In my last video, I talked about the fear of speaking French. Today, let's go one layer deeper. The trap of being a professionalist when learning a new language. So let me ask you a question. If there were 2 groups of photography students, Group A had to submit 1 perfect picture at the end of the month, and Group B had to take 1 picture every single day for 1 month, which group do you think would end up taking the best photos? Most people would probably say Group A, right? Because they have more time to plan, to edit, to make that one masterpiece. But actually it was Group B, the group that focused on quantity over perfection. Because every day they were practicing, they learned from each mistake, they experimented, they improved naturally. The group chasing perfection spent all their time planning and ended up with almost nothing. This also applies to most things in life. If you're one of the YouTubers like me, I believe you resonate with this. Professionalism just brings you nowhere to start. And that story isn't just a random example. It's from one of my favorite books, Atomic Habits. I read it in Chinese though, by James Clear. He uses the experiments to show how progress doesn't come from chasing perfection. It comes from consistent practice. And honestly, language learning works exactly the same way. The people who speak imperfectly but consistently every day become more fluent than those who wait until they can speak perfectly. It's not about getting it right once, it's about showing up again and again, even when it's messy and uncomfortable. When I first heard that story, I realized I had always been Group A. The ones who waited to pronounce the perfect sentence, the one who replay a voice note 10 times before sending it, and the one who think for 5 minutes before saying a single line in French. Not sure if you have experienced a moment like this, but I did. When here's a French person right in front of me, but I still speak English. Not because I can't speak French, but because I don't want them to know how bad my French is. I thought I was being careful, but really I was just stuck. Like those photography students, I was so focused on getting everything right that I wasn't practicing enough to actually improve. There were times I spent an hour recording a short French video. If you get a chance to watch my previous vlog in French, you know it. And I deleted the clips because my pronunciation didn't sound native enough. I'll correct myself mid-conversation and then lose track of what I was trying to say. Sound familiar to you? That's when I realized professionalism doesn't make you fluent. It makes you afraid. Afraid of being wrong, afraid of being judged, and afraid of sounding different. But here's the truth. No one learns a language by avoiding mistakes. We learn by making them again and again. So when I started treating language as those Group B students, just showing up every day, even imperfectly, everything changed. The moment I stopped obsessing how I sound, French started to feel lighter. It stopped being something I had to perform, but became something I could actually live. I started speaking more, not because my French was suddenly better, but because I stopped overthinking every single word. And when I did that, conversations became more natural. I could finally focus on the person I was talking to instead of that little voice in my head analyzing my grammar. So if you are a professionalist language learner like me, here's what really helped me shift my mindset and what might help you too. The first one is to focus on progress, not performance. Professionalists treat every interaction like an exam. We judge every conjugation, every accent, every pause. But language isn't a test, it's a tool for connection. Shift the question from was it correct to was I understood. Every time someone understands you, you succeed. Think about it like dancing. If you only move when every step is perfect, you'll never feel the rhythm. Fluency grows when you stop judging yourself mid-movement and start enjoying the music. For example, just say it. J'apprends le français, mais ce n'est pas facile. It doesn't matter if your accent isn't perfect. Your message is clear. That's the progress. And honestly, you will never feel ready to sound perfect. Which brings us to the next point, which is to speak before you feel ready. Confidence doesn't come before you speak. It comes because you speak. The first few conversations will always be awkward, and that's okay. Think of each one as a rehearsal, not a performance. Even native speakers stumble, mix words, or pause. They just keep going. When someone asks, "Tu veux quoi dans la vie?" just take a breath and reply simply. For me, je travaille dans une école. It's not about perfection, it's about participation. Every time you respond, you are teaching your brain, I can do this. Confidence is built sentence by sentence. And once you stop overthinking and just start talking, you begin to notice something. You actually start enjoying the process again. And it comes to the third one. Find joy in the process instead of measuring every result. Professionalism kills joy because it keeps you focused on outcomes, scores, tests, compliments. But languages aren't meant to be measured. They're meant to be lived. Watch a funny French sketch, sing in French, order dessert just so you can practice saying tarte au citron. One of my favorite things is listening to Champs-Élysées. You know, ooh, Champs-Élysées. Ooh, Champs-Élysées, au soleil, sous la pluie, da 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 da. I try to search for different versions, and this is one of my favorites, and I hope you like it too. I would sing along in the car every time when we were doing road trip, and my most confident moment in French isn't when I'm speaking, it's when I can follow and understand every lyrics of that song. That feeling, that spark of connection is fluency too. When you stop chasing progress and start finding joy, you naturally stay consistent without even forcing it. And to truly enjoy learning, you also have to be okay with something most of us try to avoid, being vulnerable. Most of us fear mistakes because we don't want to look stupid, but vulnerability, being willing to look imperfect, is actually a language skill. You didn't hear me wrong. Every time you speak despite feeling nervous, you are strengthening your courage muscle. Fluency isn't just linguistic, it's emotional. I used to apologize consistently when I made mistakes, for example, to my teachers. J'ai allé à l'aéroport. Ah, pardon, je suis allé à l'aéroport. This is a common mistake, and as long as they understand it, just keep going. You know, it's a mistake in your heart, so you try to avoid it next time. But that's alright, you don't have to apologize. Confidence isn't no mistakes. Confidence is saying, it's okay, I'm still learning. The more you practice vulnerability, the more natural it becomes, like any other part of the language. And when you stop fearing mistakes, you start to see fluency in a completely different way. Let's redefine fluency. We often think fluency means sounding native, but true fluency is being able to express who you are, your thoughts, your emotions, and humor, even imperfectly. The accents, the grammar, the vocabulary, they are just tools. But you are the message. When you stop trying to imitate someone else's voice and start using your own, you realize you've been fluent in something far more important all along: the courage to connect. Some of the most beautiful moments in another language come from imperfection. When you search for a word, when someone smiles kindly at your mistake, or when you both understand each other anyway. That's the real fluency. So don't aim to sound perfect, aim to sound alive. Because people don't connect with perfect speakers, they connect with real humans. 咪知道課去嘅咧 Thank you for watching. Tell me in the comments what's one imperfect thing you do this week to practice your language. And if you haven't seen my last video, The Fear of Speaking French, watch that next. It pairs perfectly with this one.